When other people are genuine advocates, active referrers, passionate about your business, enthusiastic about it, they're more powerful to persuade their friends than you are.
Today's guest is the founder of the Fitness Business Strategy and the co-founder of Big Uppetite, my friend, Miss Jenna Davies.
There are always things that we don't see. We never know everything. There's always an opportunity to learn.
She's a personal trainer, a champion pro bodybuilder, and has worked with over 500 personal trainers to help them grow and scale their online business. One of the things you mentioned to me before we started recording, you're like, when Junior Stone is making money, which I fucking love. What do you think is more important when it comes to business, branding or marketing?
I think...
Alrighty guys, today's guest is the founder of the Fitness Business Strategy and the co-founder of Big Uppetite. She's a personal trainer, a champion pro bodybuilder, and has worked with over 500 personal trainers to help them grow and scale their online business. With a background in branding, sales, and marketing, she worked her way up to be one of the top market leaders in the whole pharmaceutical space. So please help me welcome the woman who went from working at Subway at the age of 13 to now a 7-figure entrepreneur, helping hundreds of online businesses scale through marketing, strategies, and systems. My friend, Miss Jenna Davies.
Wow, thank you so much. What an introduction. I loved hearing all of that back. It always sounds like a bit of a mouthful, but I'm really happy to be here. Finally lined it up.
I know we've been jumping around quite a bit, but look, I'm super excited to have you on. Like, obviously, we've had Jade on, your kind of business partner, ex-business partner. So I'm super excited to like just the whole space that you guys have created, what you're in, everything you're about, just absolutely fires me up. So, talk to us a little bit about. Talk to us about Big Uppetite. How did you actually start Big Uppetite? And, well, give the listeners a little bit of a background. What is it? How did you guys actually start it? And where are you sort of at with it right now? Because you've had a bit of a transition right now.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a beast at the moment. We've just launched our MVP, our first tech platform, the first phase of our build, which is really exciting. So we've got our clients in their own growth platform, using and accessing all of our resources as we work alongside them. We deliver results. Put simply, that's what we do. Our focus is to support online coaches to getting the best results possible with their clients. So that could be automating the customer journey, creating as many adherence driving touch points as possible. Most importantly, of course, sales and marketing, generating leads, converting leads, creating a bulletproof offer, sharing your message with the world and scaling from there. So that's essentially what it is. I met Jade in December of 2021, and in 2022, in February, we were working together. It was initially like an idea to start a podcast, which then turned into butcher's paper all over the wall and multi-tab spreadsheets within a matter of days. And we just kind of knew that we were onto something and on the right track. And we were both very aligned in terms of we had separate businesses, or had and still have separate businesses at the time, which we'd come together to service the volume that we were generating essentially of leads. And the biggest problem that we were solving was that trainers just needed help. People just needed help building their systems, automating their business, getting leads and making sales. So we joined forces. We started to do that. Essentially, we both have bigger visions for our futures in the tech space, and it's definitely a key part of where we're both going. And so we essentially started to create the MVP over our journey together, in learning from our clients as well. And yeah, that's what we've got today, which is awesome.
What I'm super excited to sort of chat about is the whole tech space stuff. Like, this kind of excites me a little bit. I've kind of had some recent actually opportunities myself to dive into this space, and I don't know a hell of a lot about it. So what has been some of the I guess, talk to us about what has been some of the struggles getting into this space? Because if at least me looking outside into it, I look into any sort of other business that's online marketing, creating online funnels, or a brick and mortar business, something like that. It's quite simple in my eyes. I'm like, this is quite simple. And I also know, or at least, and tell me if I'm wrong, my understanding of the tech space, it's going to go that next level of complexity. what has there been any like struggles that you've gone through in going through tech space, things that you didn't notice from the start, or some just hurdles, or tell us a little bit about the journey here.
100%. So there are always things that we don't see. We never know everything, right? There's always an opportunity to learn. So the biggest struggle that I've personally had with it is more so managing my personal thoughts and the limitations that I put on myself mentally, because you want to do X, Y, Z, or you want to achieve a result, and there's a billion ways to skin a cat with tech, right? If you can think of it, it probably already exists, and it just needs to be built or laid in the right way. But the most important thing is always problem, solution. So know clearly who you are working for, whose problem you are solving, and how you are solving it, and continue to ask yourself, how can I solve this better? How can I solve this faster? And with tech, it is actually allows you to do that easier, So tech allows you to solve problems faster and better, and be more front of mind, and have more touch points. And it's all around us. We're all already using it. It's just about bringing it into a more streamlined fashion for the business. And I think the biggest challenge that I find with it is, how can I make it unique? What's my USP? Because you don't want another Me Too product, right? And it comes back to competition and threat of substitution and barriers to entry. Why would somebody choose you over somebody else? Or why would somebody choose your product over something else? So then you kind of go down rabbit holes of, how can I be different? How can I find the gap in the market?
So with this whole space then, so where do you see it going for yourself then? You mentioned before that you've got a different sort of, vision of what you want to create and do in this sort of space. What's your plans?
I definitely want to productize it. I want to create something that more people around the world can use. Obviously, the service as a software is one element in terms of using software to enable us to deliver a better service and to service more people and to make it more scalable. But I'm really keen to create a platform that trainers around the world can use to grow their fitness business and grow their business online. Online coaches can use to grow their online coaching business. So that is my plan, is to continue down that space and to continue building on it, really. It's just one at a time, one step at a time.
I love it. So I want to dive into a little bit of your genius zone, which is branding, marketing, sales. One of the things you mentioned to me before we started recording, you're like, my genius zone is making money, which I fucking love. So let's dive into this conversation. What do you think is more important when it comes to business, branding or marketing?
I think branding is really a fancy way of saying, who are you and who are you here for and why? And I think that's really important, because your marketing messages you can send out as many marketing messages as you want. You can attack the whole entire world. But if you don't have repetition, frequency, and specificity with your messaging to build that muscle of your brand in your consumer's mind, which comes from being true to your brand values, continuously being consistent in who you are, then you're not going to build that top of mind recall, and your marketing efforts will be wasted. So on the flip side, you can have the greatest brand in the world, but people don't know about it. And when I say great brand, I mean look and feel, strong values, strong traits, really strong market. But really, by definition, then if you have a really strong connection with who you're here for and why you're here for them, and they're getting such amazing results, then word of mouth will spread as well, right? So it's kind of like a chicken or the egg thing, but I definitely feel you need marketing to build your business, and branding allows people to fall in love with your business and keep coming back.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with a marketer one day, and I asked this question, because if I was to call myself a brander or a marketer, I'd probably say I'm a brander first, because I think branding is all in psychology massively, right? And one thing he said to us, he's like, branding means nothing. Branding's nothing, marketing is all that. And I'm like, I kind of disagree, because I've never seen I've never seen you say like Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Let's think Red Bull. Let's think Red Bull. I've never seen Red Bull do an ad at all that says, hey, come buy our shit.
Yeah.
Here's how you can buy our shit. Red Bull, all they do all the time, they sponsor the biggest awesome events. And if you think of Red Bull, like the business that they're in is helping people actually tap into their adventure side. But then you think about other energy drinks in the market. Like why does Red Bull have such the biggest share of the market? And I really believe it's because their brand, the things that they are known for, is just so much bigger, right? But if we start to market to a brand that's shit, I think it can work, right? If your marketing's really good and the branding's shit, it can work, but I'm not sure how sustainable that is, right? Because the branding, at least in my eyes, I'd love to know what you sort of think about this. At least in my eyes, the branding is what keeps people wanting to come back and wanting to tell their friends, which is the ever-growing marketing machine, right? What's up, Dream Nation? Have you ever wondered how far ahead your life would have already been if you had got access to this type of content at a younger age? Look, this is why I need your help. I'm trying to build the #1 personal development platform out there to teach you guys the tips, tricks, and attitude of what it takes to live your dream life and to bring the type of education that we all wish we had in school. This show only grows by word of mouth and new subscribers, so it would mean the world to me if you could smash that subscribe button right now, leave us a 5-star written review or drop a comment below and share this episode with a friend. I would be forever grateful. All right, now let's get back into this episode.
Yeah. Branding is how you make people feel, and marketing should share that emotion. So if you look at Qantas, I love Qantas ads. They have ads around the Christmas time of people flying home after COVID, embracing at the airport, crying as they take off, going to weddings and being present at key events. And that is their marketing. They use real people as well. They did a campaign where they used a real mother and son that were reunited after 4 years apart in COVID. And they captured that emotion and they support their people. So I love Qantas as a marketing guru because they're using market-driven marketing. They're customer-centric, they're sparking emotion, and they're speaking a universal language because everyone around the world, which is their market, can understand that Qantas brings people together, right? And that is what you pay for. So why is it in COVID that people would pay $10,000 to get on a flight? Well, that's the value of seeing your loved one. You never see a Qantas ad that says you get a footrest in premium economy, extra leg room, seats recline, we've got all the Harry Potter movies, you eat with a steel knife and fork or whatever. You never see flight duration, number of flights, number of flight paths. You see we go to more places, we'll get you to more people, and you can connect and share your life with loved ones. And that ability to appeal to desire is how you maintain a value in your client's mind. So Coca-Cola on a lower ticket or lower end of the scale, essentially, we love summer, like the taste of summer, twist open happiness, share a Coke with. That's their marketing, and their marketing is brand driven, right? Because it's sharing the brand values, which I absolutely love. So I feel that when you hinge your business, your marketing on features and benefits, you are actually just setting yourself up for comparison from the start.
Yeah. So tell us, what are some of the key strategies against? So and obviously, like, we could probably talk about this for a year around marketing, but I think before we started recording, you mentioned to me, it's like, when people come to start marketing, it's really like an inside job first. Talk to us a little bit about, for the people listening to this right now and they want to improve their marketing, either build their personal brand or put themselves out there more, or starting to tell people about their products, where do they need to start?
A strong connection to who they are, because who you are says a lot about what makes you happy and what impact you want to make on the world and who you want to help. I think you have to be really passionate about who you are helping. When you are passionate about who you are helping, you are more market driven. And when you are market driven, you continue to pioneer based on customer data, customer feedback, which means you will always be ahead of your competition because you will be solving problems, because you have a genuine enthusiasm to do so. You have a genuine desire to help these people because it is part of your internal motivation. And I think that's very important, because if you're in it to make money and you're in a great market, let's say you pick pet food, brilliant market. People love their pets and they don't even know what they're buying, but they'll buy it, right? And so if you're not passionate about that market, then you lose the commitment to that market. And that I feel that it's really important that you start with your passion as a person. What makes you passionate? What's your ikigai, essentially? Like, why are you passionate about what you do? Who do you do it for? And that will allow you to be more market driven and take and dedicate more energy to solving the problems as a marketer.
And how can we stand out more in a world right now that it feels like everyone's a marketer with social media? I think business and marketing, and with AI, I was thinking last night actually, because we're at AI thing, I was like, there has never been a time that's faster to build a business right now. If you think back 30, 40 years ago, even to write an SOP for your business was written on a piece of paper and stored in a fucking filing cabinet, put somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So then to train someone, it's like, come into our office where you take out the file, and I mean, all these things now can be done with AI and automated, even just put into a Google Drive. So we're building businesses faster than ever now. I think entrepreneurship is massively on the rise, which would mean that marketing would be becoming more competitive. So how can we really make sure that we're standing out from our competitors?
I think about this all the time. I also really think about this for my own business and for my clients. It's what I do for a living, is I help people stand out, right? And how do you do that? I really like being product-led in that regard. So a product's so good that it sells itself. I love when the community shares your product for you. So being more customer-centric and showing the end result, not telling. Like Qantas with the ad where people get together, that's what they're showing you. They're showing you the byproduct of their service. So I think to stand out, leveraging the result, the thing that you sell, doing what you say you're going to do, and getting other people to sell it for you. Because when other people are genuine advocates, active referrers, passionate about your business and enthusiastic about it, they're more powerful to persuade their friends than you are. So in order to stand out, do a really fucking good job. Do a really good job at the thing that you do and continue to do better. Have a growth mindset, refine your service offering, refine your product offering, make it more simple, make it easier, make it more enjoyable. And that comes from being customer-centric. And in terms of your marketing and messaging, use those people in your messaging. Let your success speak for you. You can be really tongue-in-cheek, I guess, and try and cut through with a blunt or abrupt or a sharp or a different tone. But if you look at Newy app, it's a startup app. They are like Stripe and they are new to the market. They are doing so well with billboard advertising, using their consumers and selling the benefit. So they'd say something like, Vera sells training online in seconds, which is the results that people want. And it's their app, but it's a big picture of their target market, right? Somebody who's in their target market. So I really love their marketing right now as a startup because they're getting results for people and that's what they're doing to market. So they're standing out with proof. I think we live in a world of pretenders. It's easier than ever to sell shit online. Anyone can do it and you can do it yourself. You know, in the past, if you wanted to start a restaurant, you'd be found out very quickly if it was shit or it wasn't as good as they said it was, no matter how good it looked, no matter how great it was located or how well it was situated. So I think now it's very easy to sell and you can get trained on sales for free on YouTube, on podcasts, or for a fee, right? So you can get trained on sales and there's people regurgitating things online and they're selling. So I think if you really want to stand out, don't do what everyone else is doing, which is sell themselves and sell your results.
Yeah. Well, apart from Qantas and this other tech company, what are some other big brands out there that you love, like because of the way that they've marketed and branded themselves? What are your favorites? What have you learned from them?
It's a good question. Can't go past Nike. They're really great for selling the results. They have a lot of ads and campaigns. I like ads, YouTube ads, and they are always lifestyle or benefit driven. They have athletes running on track and field. They have everyday people running in their lunch break through a city. And I love the way that they're narrowing their niche to people who want to be go-getters and chase tomorrow, which could be an Olympian or it could be anybody working in the city. So I think they've done a really good job with their marketing and their messaging. I love Move With Us, Rachel Dillon's brand, and the way that they've really grown their market. They've, I think, really opened it up to be more lifestyle and more appealing to the everyday, but really niched in on the Pilates girl era, the soft girl era. And when I say soft, I just mean that motivation to train, I think, is a bit different, and they're tapping into a different motivator for that market as well. And I would probably say those two come to mind. The only other one that I can really think of off the top of my head. Oh, I love Milk Run. I absolutely love Milk Run if you're in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. It was recently acquired by Woolworths. They bought it. It was like a fire sale for $10 million. Their first round of funding was $74 million. So that's just to give you an insight to what a bargain Woolworths picked it up for. And their messaging is just like very friendly, very community driven, makes you feel like, you get handwritten cards from them, really cute and bubbly push notifications in the app. And it's just, it's got a very like warming feel to it.
Yeah. And I'm just absolutely obsessed on this stuff because I love it all. And I think if anyone's selling anything, you've got to really start to think like this. But one of the best, I think, and I'd hate to freaking say it, is McDonald's.
Yes.
Because like, who do they market towards children? Like with the fucking creepy clown, but the colors and the Happy Meals and the playgrounds at every single restaurant. And because they understand that probably nothing's more annoying to a parent than a kid who hasn't taken their mind off one thing that they want, right? And like, that's just so interesting where they market towards the freaking children. They make the children happy. And then they're like, conveniently, well, here's coffee as well, where you can sit down and have a break while your kid plays in the playroom, right? It's such a fascinating world, but I've been learning so much from inside these companies, but looking as to why they do the things they do. But I really think to truly stand out, we've got to do those things. We've got to involve, and I see you said about the handwritten cards. One thing that I've really tried to do my best lately is try to involve as many of the 5 love languages as possible, because I understand that branding is all about love, right? Like you said, like how you make the people feel. So if I could involve, multiple love languages, so handwritten cards, like how often does someone get a handwritten card from somebody, right? Like you said, that company, the reason it really makes people feel good, especially if they're an acts of service, a words of affirmation person, they're like, oh my God, I didn't even get handwritten love letters from my fucking partner, let alone this new business, right? And then you'll forever have their business if we start hitting these things. It's such a different angle.
Yeah, exactly. And, and coming back to what you said or your question earlier around tech and doesn't it seem more complex? Well, it's personalization. How can we do that at scale, right? Or other things that we can do in that level. And I definitely love a handwritten card or a thank you note. It's part of an experience, especially at a period of time where you're so happy to receive already. So you're like leveraging an emotion to heighten it, which makes it easier. And yeah, on McDonald's also, like the way that they do market, a Big Mac versus a cheeseburger, it's never like you get more with a Big Mac. It's just like Big Mac. You know what I mean? That messaging around it, I wouldn't even know because I don't eat McDonald's. But everybody knows ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Exactly.
So they've done a really good job, and they're also never selling what they do. It's always why they do it. Like a Happy Meal. Genius.
Yeah. And the sound, right? So it's like they're actually using sound anchors. When people hear it, they're familiar with the sound, and there's so many things. What I'm curious to know, so in 2021, you're building your business, you're doing your thing, and you had the thing that probably no one wants to go through, really, at least while they're going through building businesses. You've lost your mum.
Mm-hmm.
How did that period, how did that affect your personal life and your business, and how did you sort of navigate through that?
Yeah, wow. So I quit my job in December 2019, and my first company, Jenna Davies Marketing, and I started that, and I went into it full-time in January. And on the 21st of February, my mum passed in 2020. And I started fitness business marketing company. Like, my whole market shut down 4 weeks later, and I quit my job. And I was 27. I was just about to turn 27, living alone. And I'm like, fuck, like, what am I going to do? But also, my mum had just died, right? Like, everybody's freaking out as well. So your support network is chaos because everybody's got shit going on. So to be a victim of something when everybody and like trauma and crisis is subjective. So I had a friend lose her job and she was a mess. She'd never done that before. And I'm like, okay, like, that's one down, of the people that I have to lean on. And it was an incredibly isolating time, like, obviously figuratively and literally. Couldn't even drive to see my dad or my family because we couldn't leave our house within 5 Ks. Couldn't go home to South Africa. I lost my mom, which was like the biggest blunt, like, I can't even explain it. Like, your whole world changes and it will never be the same. And I had to work, but also I band-aided with work. So I had no choice. To me, I had no choice to stop or slow down because I needed to support my life. Like, had to pay rent, had to pay bills. Now, realistically, like, I probably really didn't really have anywhere else to go at that point in time either, my family's in another country and I didn't have the home life back then that I like could go home. So it was very much like band-aid with work. And it was a very like numbing time for me, which there's a part of me, and I call her Drill Sergeant Jenna. She's very like relentless. This is the part of me that got me on stage. It's the part of me that started a couple of startups and gets up at 4 a.m. and just fucking gets it done. And that part just really came out, like this protector part that just pushed me through all of these hard times and completely shut off any emotion. So it was really challenging because everybody else was falling apart with their own shit. And when people go through their own things, they kind of forget. I did have a good support system, but I couldn't see them. And it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. So you kind of like when you lose to the strong part of yourself, because they eventually need to take a break, you cope in ways. Some healthier than others, and I wasn't coping healthily, but I had work to do, so it wasn't so bad. So it was a really interesting time for me because everyone's like, wow, you're so strong and you're doing so well. I can't imagine. And I'm like, try, like, please try for a second because I need help. But eventually, like, I think it was probably a year later that I probably felt a bit safer in terms of my security and my stability and I started to feel it, and my auntie passed and we went into another lockdown. So it was very like, all I felt like I could do was work, and it was the only thing that rewarded me, literally, because your ability to get joy in a lockdown, like go to the gym, see people, see your friends and family, get on a plane, go home. I couldn't do so many of the things. And so like, it was a really fucking hard time. And the more normal the world is, the more I like grieve and heal. I think like in recent times, since living on my own again, I've probably missed him more than ever. And I actually lost my uncle this month as well. So I'm going home for Christmas, which is I'm really looking forward to. But in terms of how I navigated it, like sink or swim. Like I literally, to me, it was do or die. And I've got a very destructive part of me. I've got a very angry part of me. And if I let that part run wild, like I would when I was 17, I'd probably be in jail or like not here.
Yeah. So what do you think was the difference, right? Because you, like, so it happened at Psycho, so you couldn't even go back for it. Like it's the timing of everything was probably the worst. But then you're already in the pit of being an entrepreneur with daily problems. You've had this happen, COVID happened. You had nearly every single thing happen in a very short amount of time where the average person would crumble and the average person would be like, fuck this, and look for all the reasons why they can't keep going. Mm-hmm. What do you think was the main thing that like, what's the difference between you who came out the other end and kept thriving, or someone who that would have been it for them to be like, I can't cope. I'm going to stop my business. I can't just keep going. What do you think the biggest difference was?
I know the answer to this question, and it's going to take it to a pretty deep place, but it's survival. I grew up in quite like a turbulent home. My parents split when I was 15, and it was just a really hard, challenging time ever since, like up until my mum's death. And she actually did leave at that time when I was younger. So I have what some people would call like, I guess, like an abandonment wound. So I've worked really hard I've worked really hard on, reframing this and inner work and working for myself, my self-care and my head and heart space. But I've always worked really hard so that things can't be taken away from me. It's like I will create my own security and stability so that I never need anyone or anything. Like when I started working, I was 13 years old because I didn't want to ask for things. I never wanted to give people the power to say no, which sounds like a kid who couldn't share in a playground, but I definitely was. Like I do everything that I do to experience life with people I love. But I was already mentally programmed in a way that I was a survivor. Like I wasn't going to let something out of my control change my circumstances. So I would work because I could control it. I would bodybuild, like I would compete because I felt very in control when I was supported by structure, like programming and nutrition and all the rest. So when I would feel anything threatening my security or stability, I gravitate to the things that I can control, which is work. And I'm a very literal person. I like numbers, strength training, increasing my strength, money, clients. So I think for me, it was just the thing that set me apart was probably that I was already quite strong from things that I'd been through, and it's not to say that there's a right or wrong way to process losing somebody. Seemingly killed it, did well in COVID, but on the flip side, like, you still have to face that reality forever.
Yeah. As a female entrepreneur, right? And not just a female entrepreneur who's doing okay, like you're fucking crushing it across multiple businesses. The go-getter energy, the hustling, the sales, the strategy, this is all very masculine energy, right? And it's so useful because it's what you've really been able to tap into and crush it. I'm curious, what are some things you do as a female entrepreneur to blend and balance between, so you're not just masculine all the time? How do you tap into your feminine power? How do you tap into that feminine essence, either in work or off work or just in life in general?
Well, I got a cat. When my mum passed, a friend of mine at the time said to me, you really need to see someone because you're so fine that you need to see someone, you know? So I started seeing a therapist. I still see her. And she told me to get a cat because caring for something else is feminine. And showing love and feeding something and being considerate. And I love him so much. It works. Therapy kitty. I still see a therapist. I make space to share because I think I've always been the rock for other people, and I naturally step into this fixer role. It's what I do for a living as well. I let people lean on me, and I tell people to lean on me. So I had to make space to share, which means embracing vulnerability, and I wouldn't do that naturally with friends. So I pay somebody so that I can sit there and be vulnerable. Whether or not therapy works, it's like the first thing is like make space for vulnerability. I started doing yoga, which I loved. It really kind of put me in touch with my body a bit more. The most important thing for me in my business from the feminine side, I believe, is empathy or compassion and creativity. When you work with people, you need to have compassion because people don't work like you do. They don't do what you do. And so when they show up week on week and it's like, why didn't you do the thing? You need to understand, you need to have compassion. And when you've been through stuff, sometimes you kind of think you've had it worse. So it can make you really intolerant to other people's shit that you think is not at the depth of yours. So compassion, it was very important for me, and creativity, obviously. So creativity doesn't come from structure, it comes from space. Like this morning I went for a walk and I saw the sunrise and I was like just in a really beautiful creative flow. And I wouldn't normally make space or time for that if I was always like go in my masculine. So cooking, spending time with friends, calling my friends, being in nature is like years of self-love and self-care hours. And the hardest thing of all was stillness. You know, like thinking thoughts and feeling feelings and letting them be there, because I was always very quick to be like, now's not a good time for that. So, yeah.
Which means that it 100% is the right time, right? Because things are being suppressed, they'll eventually be expressed.
When I was working with a therapist and I first lost my mom, I actually scheduled in time to grieve. Like I put it in my calendar. She told me to do it. And I was like, that makes no sense. Like I can't cry. You think I'm going to be able to turn on the tears? And fuck, it works. Like, so I would put it in my calendar, sometimes in the middle of the day. Like I had to do it because I would always try and put it off because it wasn't productive or convenient for me to do it in the middle of the day. So she made me do it like in the morning or in the middle of the day, which is when I was most avoidant of my feelings. And I would do things like, I have a playlist for my mom, so I would listen to her music. I would go for a walk. I would journal. I would write her letters and like just sit and be in her, you know, as much as I could. And I really had to make space for it because whilst it felt really unnatural, I think it worked, you know, like to a degree. It helped me with making space for thoughts that I wasn't open to receiving.
Yeah. One of the things we were talking about before we started recording was actually learning how to be present as an entrepreneur. And I wanted to talk about it here, so we didn't really go into it too deep because I think it's super important. Talk to us a little bit about that, because I was sharing with you that we just had this massive event and it was stressful and overwhelming. And simultaneously, I'm thinking about doing it again next year. And I do often find myself living in the future as an entrepreneur. I'm like, what are we creating? Where are we going? What are we doing? And then we're always working back. And as a result, I'm not really present often. And it is a conscious act for me. I'm like, I do have to consciously go, I'm going to go for a walk without my phone and just allow myself to be bored with my thoughts for 30 minutes and be here. And even when I'm drifting and thinking things, I have to constantly try and bring it back. So talk to us, why is it so super important for us as entrepreneurs to actually bring time into our days to be present in the journey instead of living so far in the future? And how do we do it?
I'm a huge fan of Stoicism. And there is a quote or saying that I love, and that is that solitude is the university of creativity. And if you look at the book, The Stillness is the Key, if you read it by Ryan Holiday, it's one of my favorite books. It changed my life. All great leaders and creators processed and reflected on their thoughts. They kept journals, they did meditative walks, they spent time alone, they had baths, they all allowed for rational thinking. They created rational thinking by being calm. And when you live in a hyper aroused state, because you are always caffeinated, stimulated, on the go, stressed, notifications, reachable, responsible, accountable, and behind, essentially, you are never calm. You don't breathe into your belly. You don't breathe deeply. You're never present. And so things get lost, stolen, broken, missed, and you make mistakes. And it's an expensive place to be. It's so costly because you don't see things and you miss things. And so being present brings a different state with you. It's like this connectedness, it's presence, it's awareness, and it allows you to choose based on your deepest desires, when you're connected to what they are, to be more rational, to respond rather than to react, which is important as a leader, as a manager, and to stay connected to your higher self, to stay on your path. Because I've learned as well in business, opportunity is distraction, can be distraction. We work so hard. You can go to an event, you can go out somewhere, and you get people like, we should partner, we should do this thing, let's do this. And it's like, fuck yeah, that would be mad. And it would be. And maybe it would make you a couple of grand or $100,000, whatever it is. But that investment and that energy could pull you off your path. And when you aren't clear of the path, then you don't have that vision, which comes from reflection, awareness, tapping into your desires and where you want to go. It's like if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there, and you kind of end up off your path, unhappy, and then you end up back in this stressed state. So I think it's really important that you are present and calm and clear. And it's really hard for me. Like that's a work in progress. Like for me to be a present marketer, brander, business owner, I have to work daily. Like if I don't journal and meditate or one or the other every day, or go for a walk or look after my self-care, I notice it within days.
Yeah. So the main things for you is journaling, meditating, walking. Is there anything else?
Look, I don't meditate as often as I would like to. I would definitely say, yeah, I love it. I think I love to go to yoga. I love training. For me, like training, movement, just any form of movement. Journaling, because I understand like movement can also not be like necessarily, it's also a great place to block things out. It's probably journaling at the very least. Cooking, just hanging out with myself. I love watching a documentary and having a bit of a date night with myself, but you've you've really got to be aware of self-soothing and self-care versus self-numbing. Like having a glass of wine or having a couple of glasses of wine to yourself, cooking dinner and watching Netflix sounds like self-care. But if you're self-numbing with the wine, like had a big day, just want to take the edge off, have a glass of wine, it's a bit of a red flag. And then if you're mindlessly scrolling your phone, don't even know what happened in the last 5 minutes of what you're watching, it's not self-soothing. That's not self-care, right? So you kind of have to make sure that you're in that, again, present state. You're choosing whatever you're doing. So I would, journaling at the very least, and therapy.
Yeah. I think the therapy thing is huge. It's like everybody should have, like, you think about anything, like if you want to be the best at anything, and I think everybody should have the goal to be the best person they possibly can be at their life and their business and in their relationships. Every professional athlete in the world has a coach. You want to go lose 10 kilos, go to the gym, you go get a coach. You get someone who knows more than you to teach you nutrition and to help you through workouts and to teach all this shit. But for some reason, when it comes to life, their emotions and their psychology and their mindset and the way they're, self-sabotaging patterns or anything like this, people, I think it's becoming a lot more common now in our generation, which is super cool. But back in the day, it used to be a bit of a thing where people like, oh, you'd only see a therapist if you had something wrong with you. But it's like, I think everyone should probably have a therapist or a coach or someone who they see who's qualified to actually help them literally do that, coach them and help them pull up on, hey, when you're thinking things and doing these things, they're destructive for you. Here's some tips, here's some advice. Help them stay mentally sharp.
Yeah.
It's one of the most important things.
Well, the best prevention is intervention. So why do people go to the doctor or a pharmacy? Well, they're sick, right? A healthy person has many wishes. A sick person has one. You go service your car when you need it done routinely because it tells you to, maybe, or something's wrong with it. But really, you don't know how to maintain it yourself, more or less, or there's things you can do to maintain it. And what I'm getting at is working with a coach to guide you through a structured program of self-work, whatever the goal, whether it's yourself or your business, is how you see the things that you don't see. I believe what got you here won't get you there. And neuroscience tells us we can only think our best thoughts based off the thoughts that we've already thought. So the only way to increase the quality of your thoughts is to consume more content. So why not consume content from experts and instead of learning through life's lessons the hard way, jump miles ahead by learning from people, podcasts, books, audiobooks, coaches, mentors. It's literally what we've been doing as humans for as long as time, which is sharing stories and passing on stories. And so find somebody who can tell the story better than you or has lived that story and learn from them. And the other thing is, I have this goldfish analogy that I reference often because everybody thinks goldfish are these tiny fish in bowls. But if you look at them in the ocean, goldfish can be like massive in the ocean. And that's because they have no limitations on them by their environment. And so your environment places these limitations on you when you live in a bowl because all your friends think the same shit. Your parents think the same shit. And the schools that you go to and the area that you're in and the people around you, like you can only grow as big as your environment allows you to. And so when you work with a coach and you surrender to a guided journey, which I have done, and I will always do, I continue to, I've been working with a mindset coach since my mum passed, over and above therapy, or spiritual inner work, either or. But they guide you through a journey and it's like, okay, like say we're going to talk about confidence or your inner child and you're kind of like, what the fuck is that? And you know what I mean? Like you would never go looking. You would never think, okay, I'm going to unravel this whole new can of worms and go down it, but in a guided fashion with somebody who is experienced to actually take you there, which is like you can only meet people at the depths you've met themselves. So your environment can only be as deep as you are. So go on a journey to discover yourself on a deeper level, and your environment will change. What changes first, the person or the environment? So I'm really big on that.
Yeah. You and me both. Especially like the main thing I bang on about all the time is the first pillar of the 4 pillars I teach is the right environment. Change. I love the goldfish analogy too, because it's spot on. Do you have any regrets along your entrepreneurship journey?
Well, in the entrepreneurship space, I think there's definitely things I would advise of differently to somebody in the position that I was in then. But I'm only in the position to do that now because I was once in that position. So I don't have regrets. I either win or I learn. But I definitely have learned lessons. So I can share that with you, and you won't have to do the same thing.
So what was the biggest lesson then? If you were to look back on it now without labeling it a regret, but something where you're like, fuck, I wouldn't do that again, what do you think would be the biggest one?
Don't work with people who don't align with your values. Like, don't stay anywhere for too long that you don't want to be, especially if you're under 40. Like, if you don't have kids and a mortgage, and even if you do, might be just a little bit harder. There's layers to commitment, but boy, there's only layers to it. Nothing in this life is promised. So don't stay anywhere for too long that you aren't happy. And that comes from being strongly connected to who you are, which can come from quite a bit of work as well, you know? So I think you choose yourself always, and find your purpose and your passion early in life, and your true purpose, because it's not money. Like, you will live such a miserable life if that's the way that if you're like so money focused, it will come and it will go, and it doesn't grow on trees, right? So that's what you'll get if that's what you give. So I think you got to really find what your thing is, and don't stay anywhere or around anyone who doesn't align with or support that for too long. Like, no longer than you have to. And I mean absolutely have to. Like, this is a shit thing to say, but if you died, everyone around you would have to work it out. Everyone. And I've seen that many times now, unfortunately. So, like, if you're not happy, leave. And if you think you can't, well, I mean, if you die, none of your responsibilities would matter. And it could happen tomorrow. You could get hit by a bus, right? Shit place to be where I've just taken you, but let's come out of that and flip it to nothing in life is permanent. We all come and go. People were here for hundreds of years before you were born. And when you die, people will keep coming for hundreds of years after. And like, no one will really remember who you were unless you were like Jesus Christ or Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, really, maybe, depending on how much longer the earth is around for. So like, nothing is really that important. You just got to really choose your present moment, because if you're not happy and you're not aligning with people, you need to move on. And in business, the way that's like the core of it. But in business, it's like, don't let people talk to you like shit, number one. And don't stand for people talking to other people like shit, because it says that you're working with somebody who has weird values. And if they can do that behind other people's back, what can they do for you? Maybe weird shit, like not pay you or fuck you over in a contract or whatever that may be, right? So there are lessons in business, but the real true lesson is like, if it doesn't feel good and if it's not aligned, leave.
Yeah, this has been super awesome chatting with you and hearing your story and your journey and all these things you've learned. Where can everybody find you on social media and check out all the epic shit you put out?
Thank you. You can find me on social media at Jenna Davies Marketing, and my website is biguppetite.com. That's BIGUPPETITE, because we are hungry for growth.
I love that. I love it. All right, awesome. So to wrap this up, I've got a final question. Are you ready?
Yes.
If you were to go back to your 18-year-old self, what would be 30 seconds of advice you'd give her?
Keep working. You're on the right path. Be open to learning. Listen. Be a better listener. And pay for parking. Uni, it got me real good.
Thank you so much for listening. And if you got value from this episode, it goes such a long way. If you can just take 20 seconds of your time, leave me a 5-star rating and written review, then screenshot this episode and share it to your story. And make sure you tag me for that shout out. And until next time, guys, go out there and dream out loud.